Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's webinar, HR and Technology, Understanding Benefits and Legal Considerations. The specially formatted free webinar is available exclusively for our customers enrolled in our subscription services. I'm Stephanie Blicki, the Subscriptions Program Manager for Personal Concepts, and I'm joined by my co-moderator, Leon Frierson, who serves as our Corporate Accounts Executive.
Hello and good afternoon to all of our attendees. For today's webinar, we will be discussing new technologies that are shaping the human resources or HR environment and the legal implications they may have. After a brief discussion, you'll have the opportunity to consult with our attorney on these key HR technology insights in our live Q&A session.
That's right. So today's agenda includes an introduction of our guest attorney. At that time, she will discuss the latest technology and relevant legislation updates affecting the HR realm, like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence or AI, remote workers, learning and development technology, chatbots, and virtual assistants. Then next, our guest attorney will cover some relevant case studies and finally accept some questions and answer them live, providing Personnel Concept customers with the invaluable experience of engaging with a knowledgeable attorney on critical HR technology information. And then before we leave, we'll provide some key takeaways from today's session, and throughout we'll be engaging the audience with some poll questions.
Yes, and speaking of engagement, let's get started with our first poll. Today's webinar session is heavily dependent upon audience participation, and to make the best use of our time, we're in search of timely and meaningful HR technology-related questions to present to our guest attorney. So, to ensure that we are prepared to fill today's hour with helpful content, we need to know what aspect of HR technology interests you the most today. You're going to choose all that apply in this instance. Is it cybersecurity for HR data? AI's impact on HR? Managing remote workers? Employee training technology, or is it chatbots and virtual assistants in HR? Once again, you're going to choose all that apply in this instance. You can choose more than one answer. So if you're interested in more than one, please let us know. We'll give everyone just a few more moments to select their options here. And let's go ahead and close the poll. We'll get the results. Yeah, so it looks like we've got pretty much all across the board. You guys want to know about everything in HR, but the leader right here is AI's impact on HR in general, followed by employee training technology, cybersecurity app for HR data after that, and managing remote workers, chatbots, pretty much everything. You guys want to know about everything, so we'll make sure we touch on everything in today's presentation.
Yeah, thanks so much. And as your Q&A session moderator, I'll be directing your submitted questions to our guest attorney. Keep in mind your question might be slightly modified just to ensure the best outcome for the session. And the purpose of this webinar is to provide accurate and authoritative information on the subject matters being discussed. It does not constitute legal advice. The applicability in the tips and laws discussed today may depend on your state, type of business, and number of employees. We recommend working directly with legal counsel and your human resources professionals on specific matters pertaining to your business. Personnel Concepts, the webinar host, and the guest attorney are not liable for any errors, omissions, or changes in law or advice that leads to unfavorable outcomes.
Yes, and on today's webinar session, we're hosting a special guest attorney to deliver guidance on the topic and answer question in today's Q&A session. I'd like to welcome attorney Brittany Peck. Brittany is barred in the state of Missouri. She's received her JD from Suffolk Law School, and in her practice, her expertise includes workplace and disability benefits, and she also regularly consults with HR departments to help them implement AR in their daily practices. And today, Brittany will cover the changing technology landscape around HR and the legal considerations to go along with it.
Thanks for having me, Leon and Stephanie. Let's begin today with discussing the importance of cybersecurity planning and training in the workplace. Information about employees and the company stored in HR records is really valuable to cyber criminals. This includes things like social security numbers, birth dates, bank information, and home addresses. This is the kind of personal stuff that could be targeted in cyber attacks. By far, the biggest threats to cybersecurity companies include weak passwords, malware and phishing attacks, insider attacks, and ransomware attacks. That's why HR professionals need to know how to protect data in their department and throughout the main company. The most effective role that HR professionals can take in protecting such information is to train their employees and managers on the most updated cybersecurity protocols. Cybersecurity training is absolutely crucial to the onboarding process. As new employees onboard, Employers and HR professionals should make sure that they are trained on the parts of the company's cybersecurity plan, which include basic security training. So that's talking about how to recognize a phishing attack, how to set a best password. Even though we all want to write password 123, sometimes that's not the best to protect against cybersecurity attacks. Email security, so that could look like making sure that you're logging out on all devices. Your phone is lost or stolen and you have a work email on it, to immediately report it to your HR team, or the other things. How to recognize and protect against cyber threats. What does a phishing email look like? What does an email look like that maybe is a little questionable for your company's focus? And the protocols for accessing and using confidential data. Creating a good security policy is very important for organizations, as it can help prevent and mitigate cybersecurity threats in HR and other departments for small and medium-sized businesses. HR can help mitigate these issues by creating strong passwords for company systems. So again, you don't want to just do whatever easy and memorable, because that's also easy and memorable to somebody who wants to create a cybersecurity attack. You want to use training and testing to recognize and protect against malware and phishing attacks. You want to create a backup of important data, and you most certainly want to prevent insider and ransomware attacks. The Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, suggests a simple 5-step plan to safeguard sensitive information. This looks like the following that employees and HR professionals should utilize. The first thing you're going to want to do is to take inventory of all personal information contained in files and on computers. This includes emails with sensitive information, credit card information, social security numbers, passwords, and documents. Second, you're going to want to scale down and keep only what is necessary for the business. This could include only customer credit card and social security information that are absolutely necessary per transaction, and only a few password combinations to remember. So remember, that's minimum information that you want to gather that's needed for a purchase. If you're running an e-commerce store, you probably don't need to collect social security numbers for any reason. The third is to lock it down and protect the information that the company needs to keep. Log out of email accounts after using them, make strong passwords, and regularly change them, and limit who can access the files. Not everyone needs to have access to every single file. The fourth is to properly dispose of information that the company no longer needs. Delete unnecessary emails and electronic documents, and shred physical documents with a credit card or social security info that you no longer need. The fifth is to create a plan to respond to cybersecurity incidents, including investigating, containing, reporting, and notifying affected individuals of a cyber attack.
All right, thank you, Brittany, for covering these guidelines for employers and HR professionals to help keep sensitive information safe from cyber attacks. Lately, there's been a notable trend towards artificial intelligence, or AI, tools in employment. I know quite a few of our audience were interested in learning about that. What can you tell us about using AI in HR and hiring, and are there any legal implications of such tools?
Sure, Stephanie. A recent study from businesssolutions.org found that 24% of companies use AI to hire talented employees. Meanwhile, 65% of recruiters use AI services to make their work faster, better, and more efficient. This shows just how many employees are already utilizing the services of AI. Employers and HR professionals are utilizing the assistance of AI in their hiring practices by screening resumes, performing background checks, conducting preliminary interviews, evaluating internal hiring, and other employee assessments. HR is also taking advantage of AI chatbots to automate some processes. The benefits of using AI tools during the hiring process can include increased efficiency, reduced bias, and an overall improved candidate experience. AI tools can and should automate the screening and shortlisting, saving recruiters and other HR professionals both time and resources. This allows HR professionals to focus on more important tasks, such as candidate engagement, employer branding, culture, fit, and amongst other legal and compliance tasks. Properly trained and monitored AI algorithms can also reduce the impact of human bias in the hiring process. According to select software reviews, the top 3 AI chatbots for AI are Olivia, which is an AI-driven conversational chatbot for recruiting, Eightfold, which is an AI-based talent recruitment platform, and MeBot, which is a conversational AI chatbot used for internal questions. AI tools can help identify qualified candidates based on objective criteria rather than subjective opinions by analyzing candidate data and matching qualifications with job requirements. Finally, AI-powered chatbots can provide real-time support to candidates, answering frequently asked questions and providing personalized feedback. This can help improve the candidate experience and create a more positive impression of the company. Because candidate hiring and onboarding process can be very much data-driven, Lexology.com has identified the following additional benefits to utilizing AI tools in hiring. The first is resume screening. AI-powered systems can analyze resumes and cover letters to identify relevant skills, experiences, and qualifications, enabling recruiters to screen and shortlist candidates quickly. The second is automated interviews. AI chatbots and video interviews can do initial interviews and check candidates, which saves recruiters both time and effort. The third is candidate matching. AI can compare job needs with candidate info and suggest the best fits for a job. Diversity and inclusion. AI systems that are properly trained and tested can help to remove unconscious bias by eliminating factors like name, gender, or ethnicity, and focus solely on the qualifications and expertise of the candidate. Skill assessment. AI can assess a candidate's skills and knowledge through online tests, simulations, or games, providing a more objective feedback assessment of what they can really do. Feedback and analytics. AI can provide feedback to recruiters on how effective their recruitment strategies are and identify areas for concern.
Yes, and thank you for covering some of those benefits of implementing AI tools in the hiring process, Brittany. Much appreciated. Next, what are some of the drawbacks and legal considerations surrounding using AI in employment decisions?
Sure, so like anything, there are going to be a few concerns while utilizing AI. Despite the advantages that employers and HR professionals can get from using AI tools in hiring, there are some important downsides that I want to highlight today, which can cause serious legal implications. The cons of using AI include limited human interaction. AI tools can make the hiring process less personal. Some job seekers prefer more human touch, and using too much AI can make the recruitment process feel less engaging and less human. So, like anything in life, and especially in business, you want to make sure you're balancing new technology with the old school method of making sure that you're connecting with the candidates face to face. Second, cost and effort. Using AI tools can be expensive and time consuming. Companies have to spend money on the technology, train their employees, and make it work smoothly in their hiring process. The third is risk of bias. While AI can help reduce bias, it's not foolproof, just like anything in business isn't. The results of AI can be biased if the data is learned from which it is biased. AI systems trained on biased data can lead to discriminatory outcomes, such as disfavoring certain candidates based on race, gender, or other protected characteristics. This was the case in a recent lawsuit by the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission, or otherwise colloquially known as EEOC, against the English language tutoring service in September 2023. The case may be regarded as the first AI discrimination-based lawsuit and settlement in the United States. According to the EEOC lawsuit, the company programmed its AI hiring software to automatically reject female applicants aged 55 and older and male applicants aged 60 or older. This should already be bringing a lot of red flags for HR professionals in the room here with us. These actions both violate Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, or Title VII, and the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. In its decision, the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York issued a consent decree and a settlement against the company in the amount of $365,000, as well as a non-monetary relief in the form of mandatory discrimination training and company-wide policymaking. This previous case that we just talked about that went in front of the EEOC raised questions about the responsibilities of employers to ensure that their AI systems are free from bias and that they comply with anti-discrimination laws. In addition to discriminatory bias and poorly trained AI tools, there are some other considerations to keep in mind. First is the increasing use of AI in employment also raises questions about privacy, data protection, and transparency. Employers must ensure that they collect and utilize employment data in a way that complies with data protection regulations and that they are transparent about how AI systems make decisions about employee hiring. Along the same lines of privacy and data protections, under the Americans with Disability Act, otherwise known as the ADA, employers are generally forbidden from inquiring about and using physical disability, mental health, mental disability, or clinical diagnosis as a factor in a pre-employment candidate assessment. Companies that have done so have been sued and censured. not to mention heavily fined as well. In essence, disabilities, whether physical or mental, have been determined to be private information that employers cannot inquire about at the pre-employment stage. This is similar to how employees not asking applicants intrusive questions about their private lives. In summaries, employees cannot take private demographic information into account in hiring decisions or else discriminating against applicants for protected characteristics.
Thank you for reviewing that for us, Brittany. So we had a couple of questions come through from the audience. One of them, somebody saying that our PDF of the handout of the slide presentation today might be a little bit blurry. We're working on that on the back end, but just note that this will be emailed to everybody. And then we'll also include a high-res version of the handout, just in case you weren't able to get it today. But we're working on it right now. We also have, Brittany, we have a question from one of our attendees. They want to know the following. So you mentioned that AI can help automate and conduct interviews. What does that look like? Like, do applicants have to be notified that they're answering an AI's question?
Sure. So from a legal standpoint, no, you don't have to be notified that you're using AI in your hiring process. However, it'd be pretty apparent to the candidate if you're not appearing yourself. So I think to start off answering this question, I think it's always a good idea to say, hey, we're actually using whatever tool you want to call it in our interview process. Just a heads up, here's how it's going to work. Most of these AI hiring tools will look a little bit like it could have the candidate respond to questions that are applicable to the role. So for example, say it's a customer service role, you could say, what happens if a customer wants to escalate the issue? How would you respond to that? Then the AI tool, or sometimes we call them AI bots, could pick up on the last words that the candidate spoke. Say, for example, say inform a supervisor. They would say, how would you best inform a supervisor in a timely and appropriate manner to de-escalate this issue with the customer?
Got it. So it'll pick up and kind of almost conduct that interview for them. That's very cool. So thanks for taking that question, Brittany. And as a reminder to everyone in attendance, you can submit any questions you have on any of the topics we cover using that questions feature in GoToWebinar, or you can pose a question to our staff by using that chat window.
Yes, please do. If there's anything that you need clarified or something applicable to your business that I can go over, I can do that now. Now, as far as legal considerations when using AI tools, while cognitive ability and intelligent testing are reliable and valid predictors of job success and various occupations, these AI assessments can actually become discriminatory if they adversely impact certain protected groups. These include groups defined by gender, race, age, or national origin. If an employer is using an assessment that has been found to have an adverse impact, defined by the relative scores of different job-protected groups, the employer has to prove that the assessment methodology is job-related and can actually predict success in that role. AI assessment tools and algorithms also risk unfairly screening out disabled people that otherwise may have been capable of performing the job. For example, if an AI tool's algorithm is trained to predict a candidate's potential for job success by comparing them to current successful employees, it may actually become discriminatory based on the fact that it's discriminating against candidates with disabilities because they have been historically excluded from many jobs and may not be a part of your business's current staff. Employers must also consider that among some protected groups, individuals may have limited access to reliable internet access, which can limit a qualified applicant's ability to engage digitally in the first place. So in the end, integrating AI systems into the employment raises complex legal and ethical issues that require careful consideration and regulation to ensure that the rights and protections of employees are not compromised. In a guidance regarding AI and individuals with disabilities released earlier this year, the EEOC said that an employer that administers a discriminatory selection procedure through an AI tool may be held responsible for possibly violating Title VII, even if the test was developed by an outside vendor. The agency suggested that if an employer discovers the use of the tool would have an adverse impact, it can actually reduce the impact by retraining the tool to eliminate selectors in an algorithm that may be discriminatory or select a different tool to avoid violating the law. Employers should conduct regular self-analysis on an ongoing basis to determine whether or not their employment practices have a disproportionately negative effect on protected classes under Title VII.
Hey, thanks for that information on the benefits and legal risks of using AI tools and assessments in employment decisions. And then with that, we'd like to open up another poll question. Leon?
Yes, yes. As we move into our next topic, we would like to know more about your unique experience managing remote workers. So, to continue providing you with helpful information, please select all that apply again in this instance. What we want to know: what is the biggest challenge your organization faces in managing remote workers effectively? You're going to select all that apply once again. Is it maintaining team collaboration? Very important. Ensuring data security and privacy, monitoring productivity, providing adequate technical support, or do you not have remote workers at your workplace? Go ahead and get those answers in. Remember to select all that apply. We want to know everything that is affecting you as far as your remote worker management. And we can go ahead and close the poll and see those responses. So with that, it looks like we have at 50% leading, maintaining team collaboration, and then also monitoring productivity, those tied at 50%. Leading just behind is we do not have remote workers, so we will consider that and try to get through this as quickly as possible for those 38%. And then ensuring data security and privacy, and also providing adequate technical support came in last at 22 and 25%. So we'll make sure to cover those appropriately. Thank you all for your participation.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we are, again, I think we just added it in the chat, a higher res. So let me know if that will work for you or not. Just use that chat window. So next, Brittany, can you please go over the laws and obligations employers must consider when managing remote and hybrid employees?
Sure. Some of the potential legal issues that can occur in managing remote workers include payroll and tax requirements, reimbursements for expenses, work permits, including the right to work in each jurisdiction, workers' compensation insurance pitfalls, accurately recording, and maintaining working hour policies, qualifications to conduct business, and business legalities in different jurisdictions. If employers work from home in a state other than where your company is located, meaning let's use examples here. Say, for example, before the pandemic, your company was headquartered in Manhattan. However, you have a lot of people that are on your staff that commute in from Connecticut, from Massachusetts, from New Jersey. This would be something that we should pay attention to. There are some unique considerations for payroll. Employees pay the taxes to where the state where the work is completed. This is what's known as the physical presence rule. Even if the company does not have a physical office in that employee's state, the company should still withhold both state and local taxes from the employer's home state. Taxes can be much more complicated if an employer works in hybrid position in two states. Some states, such as New York and New Jersey, have reciprocal laws where an agreement is made between two states to withhold money from the employer's home state. So if an employee lives in New Jersey and works in New York, the employee has to pay taxes to New Jersey. However, in general, employers should direct remote employees to complete a temporary presence notification form that lets the employer know that the employee will be relocating temporarily for 14 days or more to a different city or state other than the employee's primary permanent location. Otherwise, remote employees should perform their work at the stated location, primary location, and other employers should keep a record of the employee's primary location in their personnel file. And as far as other payroll considerations, employers should also note that several jurisdictions require remote workers to get what's called a home occupation permit. Companies may still require employees to obtain a license or permit, even if the employer does not operate the business from the employer's residence. Since the lines can be blurry and depend on the type of business, businesses should contact the employees' cities or counties for zoning and permit laws to ensure compliance.
And as more employers consider hiring employees for full-time remote or hybrid positions, it's apparent that there's a lot to consider. Are the legal requirements and necessary legwork similar to that of multi-state employers?
I would definitely say similar, yes. However, there's also other concerns that are breaching up on the daily. I'm seeing in the legal newsletters I'm subscribed to. And this could include things like, say, for example, again, going with the example, your company is headquartered, say, in Los Angeles. Maybe one of your employees wants to take a vacation with their family for the next month. That's a big issue, right? Because then we're running into tax ramifications, we're running into security issues, we're running into whether or not an employee needs to use a VPN. So yes and no, that the legal requirements and necessary legwork are similar to those of the multi-state employers, but it's really about focusing on where your remote workers are currently being located.
Thanks for answering that for us.
Sure. Now to kind of round out our list of legal considerations for managing remote workers, let's quickly cover companies formed as a limited liability company or a corporation. These kind of companies must consider employees well, working in an additional state other than the one where the corporation was formed. Depending on the type of business and how long employees work in that non-registered state, companies may need to qualify for the LLC or corporation in that other state. Enterprises need a new state's permission to conduct business. To qualify, companies must first register in the new state and show that they are in good standing with their current conditions. Second, after the business receives a foreign qualification, the LLC or corporation must follow a compliance obligation. This could include filing an annual report and maintaining a registered agent, which provides a physical address within the state to receive documents. But no matter what a company's physical office policies are for employers, or excuse me, employees, it's important to ensure that remote work policies are similar. For example, if a company has a no alcoholic beverage policy in their office policy, then the same should go for remote employers. When your employees are on company time, they represent the company. Setting operation times upfront with remote employees is vital to know what behaviors are acceptable for such procedures as the Employee Code of Conduct. The HR department should let employers know that they should follow the same rules as office employees during this time, such as clocking in, maintaining professionalism, etc.
Thanks, Brittany. We actually have a question coming in now relating to what we just discussed about remote worker policies. The question is, how does a remote worker's temporary location, or where they're going to be working from for at least 14 days, right, affect that worker's applicable jurisdiction for tax and benefit purposes and other employment laws during their time working at a location other than their primary location? So, are there considerations? We've talked a little bit about tax and benefits, but also the other employment laws as well.
Sure. So what word we're going to use is called domicile. So domicile refers to the legal concept of where one is normally physically located for most of the year. So say, for example, let's go back to the example of Los Angeles. If one of your employees, say, wants to go visit their family up in Washington State for 14 days, they would technically still be living in California. So with that previous example, the tax ramifications, in my opinion, based on this example, should be absolutely fine. However, you're going to run into issues where you as an employer found out through social media they actually sold their house and they're ready to completely uproot their life and just not tell you to Washington. That's a big problem. That's where the tax and other benefit issues come into play with state specific benefits such as California FMLA, etc.
Right, right. So you want to make sure that they are always reporting where they are. So appreciate that. And Brittany, are there any other legal considerations that we should be taking into account for managing remote workers?
Yes. Employers must also consider reimbursement policies for equipment that employees use to work from home. Businesses should be able to write this policy so that remote employees know exactly what the company will reimburse, making it clear for both the employee and the legal tax team when it comes time for yearly or quarterly tax considerations. The HR team might also consider keeping a tally of all reimbursements for each employee or creating a how-to guide for employees who are purchasing business tools and technology. Similarly, 8 states and 2 jurisdictions require employers to reimburse remote employers for cell phone and internet usage. The states are listed on this slide. And additionally, employers may consider prohibiting the use of personal devices like cell phones and personal computers for work purposes. If an employer uses a personal device for work, it could pose a cybersecurity risk or present an added distraction from work.
Noted, Brittany. And thank you for providing our attendees with that valuable insight into the laws surrounding remote work. Now, I also want to mention that we are providing a worker attestation of primary location form. We've been talking quite a bit about that. So you have a form right here in the chat, and our remote worker productivity plan as free downloads in the go-to webinar for all attendees. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Personal Concepts developed these attorney-reviewed forms to help employers manage their remote workforce with respect to the laws and topics that we just discussed. So make sure to download those and check them out. Next, Brittany, can you can you break down the latest in employee learning and development technology and what employers should look out for?
Certainly. Learning and development refers to the training employees as part of onboarding, continued company training, skills training, compliance training, and other knowledge building. While HR responsibilities may vary depending on the business, some HR specialists handle both employee relations and internal training. First, the training expenditure in the United States passed the $100 billion mark for the first time between 2021 and 2022, according to Training Magazine's 2022 Training Industry Report. While this figure includes facilities, equipment, and salaries, technology spending itself was also significant. The report found that on average, organizations spent 16% of their budget, or about 380,000, up from 330,000 last year, on learning tools and technologies. The surpassing of the $100 billion US dollar amount for the first time in 2021 reflects that of learning and development opportunities for technology are continuing to grow. According to Cognata.com, there are 7 trends to watch out for in the learning and development sphere of HR. These include, first, learning operations technology, artificial intelligence and machine learning, gamification, virtual reality and augmented reality, micro learning, social and collaborative learning, and video-based learning.
Yeah, our team at Personnel Concepts is actually working on implementing AI into some of our own processes and developing certain features that can help our internal team and maybe beyond that, out to our customers.
That's really good to hear. With due consideration for the legal aspects of these technologies, there are some real benefits to incorporating new technologies for both businesses and customers. The first of these technologies, learning operations technology, refers to training programs that allow employers to deliver personalized learning experiences and integrate the curriculum within the employer's role at the company. With learning operations technology, employees' trainings, topics, and assessments can be aligned to measurable business goals. Artificial intelligence, or AI, specifically machine learning, otherwise known as ML, which is a branch of AI that focuses on using data and algorithms to imitate the way that humans learn to improve its accuracy, are being used to personalize learning and provide real-time feedback to learners. AI can be used to create individualized, personalized programs for learners. Also known as adaptive learning, ML leverages AI and algorithms to adjust their learning experience based on a learner's performance, interests, and needs. AI itself can also be used to quickly generate content, supporting the efforts of instructional designers and content developers needing to build courses at scale. Gamification is the use of game design elements in non-game contexts. While it can be used to make learning more engaging, relatable, especially for younger employees, and enjoyable, there are risks in making learning too much like a video game. Specifically, learners may not take the learning module or subject matter seriously. Learning leaders should understand the preferences of learning audience first before adding gamification features, which can also be costly and time consuming because of the developer hours needed.
Now, Brittany, you mentioned AI can be used to help designers build training courses quickly, and what we need to know is are there some legal concerns with this, right? And how can employers, HR professionals, designers, and others reduce the legal risks that AI may pose when you use them in that way?
Sure. So one of the issues with AI is that sometimes it does not keep abreast of the latest legal ramifications due to AI. So what this could look like is, for example, they could accidentally answer, or excuse me, pose the question of EEOC protected questions. It could look like that they're relying on old laws that were overturned and now it's something different. If you have a training course based on the latest, say, for example, countrywide mandated training, such as sexual harassment training or race relations training, it could become outdated very quickly and AI doesn't know. So I think the best way that employers, HR professionals, designers, and others can reduce the legal risk of using this AI in this way is to periodically review the content. You could set this up quarterly, you could set this up every 6 months to ensure that you're only giving the AI program and the machine learning the most up-to-date legal preferences.
Right, so there are some limitations there. So even though AI is a great tool, we need to make sure that we're monitoring it and keep everything up to date and all the information that we're feeding it. Thank you so much for that, Brittany. What else can you tell us about learning and developing development technology in general?
Sure. So moving forward, our next example of new learning and development technology is virtual reality or augmented reality. These technologies can provide immersive and interactive learning experiences. These technologies can deliver a you are there type of experience without incurring travel expenses and ensuring the learner is 100% focused on learning without distraction. Microlearning involves delivering small, bite-sized information to learners, which has become increasingly popular as people's attention spans shorten, according to the American Psychological Association. Microlearning is also perfect for learning on the go, as employers can access short learning modules or even take assessments on mobile devices. Social and collaborative learning technologies connect learners to participate in peer-to-peer learning. Collaboration is nothing new, but collaborating with and learning from one's peers is a growing interest as subject matter experts can be anywhere and people can receive answers in their moment of need. Video-based learning is also nothing new. However, how it is delivered and evolving to and adapting to learners' needs. Video can be shown as smaller micro-learning modules or used for assessments in which your employee, as the learner, must record themselves responding to questions or role-playing certain scenarios.
Okay, we appreciate that helpful information on emerging new learning and development technologies. With that, we'd like to open up to another poll question. Leon?
Yes, our next poll question relates to specific tools HR professionals can utilize to help with specific tasks. So, we can provide the information you would need the most. Please let us know what HR functions can benefit most from chatbots and virtual assistants. You're going to select all that apply once again. Is it onboarding and offboarding processes? Is it automating routine HR inquiries? Is it enhancing employee engagement? Is it personalized training recommendations or simplifying leave management? Once again, you're going to select all that apply for your business, as chatbots and virtual assistants can be helpful in so many different ways as the examples that we have here on the screen. Let's go ahead and close the poll. We'll see your responses. Okay, so leading was automating routine HR inquiries. I know those can be mundane, so hopefully the chatbots and virtual assistants can help with that. Next, we have onboarding and offboarding processes, followed by enhancing employee engagement. And you see the last two there, personalized training recommendations, followed by simplifying leave management. So thank you all for your answers. We'll make sure to focus in on automating routine HR inquiries.
Yeah, thanks so much. And just a quick reminder again, if you have any questions you'd like Brittany to answer, go ahead and put them in the chat window or the questions box. So moving on to our next topic, Brittany, could you please give us some insight into some other technologies that can be incorporated into the HR process?
Sure. There are two AI-assisted tools that HR departments and teams are utilizing in small to medium-sized businesses. Specifically, these are what's considered as chatbots and virtual assistants. First, and perhaps the most recognizable to the layperson, now with advent programs like ChatGPT, a chatbot that is a computer program that simulates natural conversations. Let's focus on the natural still, I think, with human users, either over the internet or internal use internet. Chatbots can handle routine and repetitive tasks in a business by offering 24/7 support, assistance, or data input and retrieval, excuse me. An HR chatbot that leverages natural language processing, otherwise known as NLP, and machine learning can understand, communicate, and even automate actions to support candidates and employees. This can save time for HR professionals so that they can dedicate more effort to other tasks. In a 2022 report by SHRM, they stated that by 2023, 75% of HR inquiries, will be initiated through conversational AI platforms like chatbots. This article attempts to quantify the impact by stating in their experience that the use of automation technology in HR has led to an 88% reduction in the content processing time and an 80% decrease in the signature processing time. In addition, by implementing digital workers or software bots, they have also freed up to more than 12,000 work hours. Second, a virtual assistant, or a VA, is a remote admin assistant who is hired on a self-employed contract or otherwise basis. VAs can help with office management work, writing, editing, design, marketing, and other activities. The benefits of using a virtual assistant are that they are a time-saving powerhouse. They will handle routine tasks and freeing up time. They're cost-effective. VAs are much more affordable than a full-time employer. You pay for hours worked and zero overhead. They offer around-the-clock support. If you hire virtual assistants in different time zones, you can benefit from support throughout the entire day. It allows for flexible hiring. Depending on your needs, VAs can be hired hourly, part-time, or full-time. Lastly, they're a productivity booster. Using VAs to manage admin tasks enables your team to concentrate on higher value activities. Virtual assistants can also offer the following skills. They can offer access to diverse skills. These include administrative, technical, and creative skills, offering a pool of expertise to tap into. They allow for scalability. As the business expands, HR professionals can simply increase the hours or tasks assigned to a VA without increasing full-time staff. They help achieve stress reduction. Outsourcing and delegating can significantly reduce stress and prevent burnout. They result in streamlined operations. VAs can help streamline business operations for efficiency and effectiveness. However, there are emerging legal implications to using AI chatbots this way. According to Pyramid Legal, the responsibility and liability for AI-generated content produced by AI-driven chatbots like ChatGPT exists in a legal gray area that sparks intriguing discussions. According to Pyramid Legal, many jurisdictions worldwide have already enacted regulations and guidelines for governing the collection, processing, and storing of any personal data it happens to collect. Subsequently, the United States has also begun enacting regulations involving the transparency and accountability of algorithms.
Thanks again, Brittany. That was a great deep dive into how HR professionals can delegate some routine tasks to chatbots and virtual assistants, a great time-saving measure. Next, can you go over some real-life scenarios where businesses have successfully incorporated some HR technologies into their businesses on a day-to-day?
Sure. I prepared 3 case studies that provide real-life examples where companies realize the benefits of utilizing HR technology in their business practices. In the first case, a company called the Anchor Group started to use a recruitment chatbot that was built into Facebook Messenger that allowed them to screen and engage with the candidates. This improved their old conversion rate, cut costs, and increased the number of applicants. Whereas the old recruitment method had a conversion rate of about 2%, the conversion rate for the chatbot was over 27%. They also cut the average cost per applicant by 65%, and the number of monthly applicants went up by 82%. The second case covers Avorto Gretzman. This company implemented pre-employment assessment to address employee turnover and retention. By letting candidates flow autonomously through their assessment, they received a realistic job preview, a virtual peek into the future work environment, and a feel for the company's culture. With this addition, Avorto's unwanted turnover decreased by 63%. The latest case involves the company Deloitte. Deloitte wanted to increase the use of one of its training programs. By engaging users with missions, badges, and leaderboards into a user-friendly platform with video lectures, in-depth courses, tests, and quizzes, they had a 37% increase in the number of returning users.
Thank you. Thank you for those great examples. And hopefully you guys can use them as an example and use them in your own organizations. As far as those success stories, it's much appreciated for sharing those with us, Brittany. Now, Stephanie will kick us off with some important info on how to participate in today's Q&A session. So make sure you get any questions you have in now. This is your last chance. Stephanie, go ahead and let them know how to do it.
All right, thank you, Leon. So to participate in today's Q&A session, I want to encourage everyone in attendance to submit questions using that question feature in GoToWebinar. You can also pose a question to our webinar staff by using that chat window. We'll do our best to get through the most relevant audience questions throughout the Q&A session, and all of the unanswered questions will actually be submitted to our guest attorney for responses and sent to you via email. So if you feel like you're not going to get it, you can still submit until the very end. And with that, we can take a look at our first question. We do put each of the question on the board here, so you'll be able to see them. Kind of helps us reference throughout. Again, if you don't feel like it's answered completely, you can ask follow-up questions within the chat. Okay, let's get our first question on the board for Brittany here. I think it's loading, sorry. All right, so if I am using an AI resource, for example, Olivia, who is, quote, in charge of updating or editing the software to be, quote, less biased, is there something that we as an employer can easily change, or is that a tool provider issue? So I think kind of what the question is like, where does the responsibility fall on the user or the developer?
So it's always going to be on the user, especially when you're talking about EEOC protected issues. for using AI technology. So for that, you could put in the query box that ignore race, ignore name, ignore age, ignore education level, whatever is applicable to your particular position if you're going through applications or interview process. But it is on you. At the end of the day, if something happens where you're violating an EEOC, it's on you as the employer.
Got it. So even on top of just making sure you're not putting anything in to cause bias, you actually need to put things in to prevent bias. Adding all of those in
Yes,
are just as
unfortunately.
important.
Well, not unfortunately. Yeah, I think it's important too. Yeah.
Yeah, to put those in. All right, let's get another question on the board here for our audience, from our audience. You mentioned the importance of cybersecurity training for new employees during onboarding process. Can you provide an example of what basic security training session might include to ensure that new hires are well prepared?
Sure. So, for example, some of the small to medium-sized businesses here may be HIPAA compliant. And part of that HIPAA compliant for cybersecurity training means that if an employee loses their work computer, work cell phone, or personal computer or iPad, whatever technology your employees have, they immediately have to delete all accounts and they have to recreate a new account and make sure that all the data is scrapped off the other individualized devices as of the latest updated guidelines.
Oh,
So
okay. So
just
even
telling
from
them
the
that,
beginning.
yeah, so just from the beginning, you need to be prepared for that. So say, for example, you got too tired on the subway home. Fortunately for you, that means rebooting your entire cybersecurity protocol for your company.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, and I know we have different things like pre-made cybersecurity training and things like that that you can get and modify to work for your business. Let's see
Certainly, and I
here.
think those are a great first step, but you're gonna want to really go into it with your HR team and make sure it's tailored to you. But it's a fantastic template to start with.
Yeah, definitely, right? Not everybody's going to have the same needs in their cybersecurity. All right, let's get another question on the board here from our audience. I'm intrigued by the idea of using virtual reality for immersive learning experiences. Can you provide some examples of how VR and AR are currently being used in HR and the kind of training programs or content where they can make the most impact?
Sure. So if your company is a business as a solution oriented company, you could, for example, put into a fake immersive reality. You can think of it basically like The Sims, but you're immersed more into it. Where, say, for example, your company does, I don't know, payroll. You could pose a problem and have it walk through in the virtual reality, and then your company can step in and they see, like, hey, your employees can get paid up to 24 hours earlier. I don't know how payroll works, but your employers can get paid up to 24 hours earlier if you utilize our business's service. And so it's more of a virtual platform that you can use to create new clients for yourself, to create trainings, and to overall create better partnerships with other businesses.
Yeah, I wonder in the future if there'll be, for example, VR retail, right? So you have to go through the whole
Yeah.
checkout process and be tested and quizzed on how you would do it before I'm wondering how far they'll take it, within that virtual reality realm.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that develops. All right, let's get another question from our audience on the board here. Could you provide some examples of common HR inquiries that chatbots can effectively handle and how they can enhance the HR experience for both employees and candidates?
Sure. So I'm definitely have done this before, where instead of reading the employee handbook, I want to email right away over to HR a question like, "Hey, when's Christmas time off?" Or "When are the holidays? Like, what days do we get off?" So, for example, like that, the HR chat box would instantly be like, "Hi, employee. We get off the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th of December. Happy holidays." And then look at all that free time you just saved from clicking on the email, checking it yourself, and responding back to the employee.
I mean, that's very true. I know that they have AIs. You could, for instance, upload your entire handbook and it can either
Mm,
be like a choose your questions to answer, or it could just now it can pull it for you. There's not a lot of setup for when you upload those PDFs,
mm,
so it is really cool. So things like the mundane tasks are definitely, it's going to
mm.
help in that aspect, I think. Let's get another question from our audience here on the board. I'm curious about the case studies you mentioned. What were the key takeaways from these success stories that other businesses can learn from?
Sure. So I believe that the main takeaway from the case studies are that employers want to be more engaged while doing cybersecurity training, while doing HR trainings, while doing, what we might think of as boring mandated trainings. The more engaged somebody is into the learning, the more they're going to walk away remembering. Right. So instead of having a PowerPoint at 4 p.m. on a Friday afternoon where your employees might be shutting off their screen and going to make some popcorn, if it's a little gamified, I think that the studies have shown that people are more likely to interact with it and they're more likely to walk away remembering the points that you want to get across.
Yeah, I can definitely second that. I think with even with online learning with school, 10 years ago compared to
Mm,
now when I go in, the everything from just the landing pages are super easy to interact with, and I think the ease is something
mm,
that also makes people return and use it again. So we'll
mm.
definitely, I think that's a huge thing that we can take away from that. Let's get another question on the board here. Are there any best practices or tools that can help HR teams stay on top of evolving legal requirements in the HR tech landscape? So resources, I think, are what they're asking for. Where can they go to hear more information and updates?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to follow up with exact names, just because I don't want to say the wrong names. But there's many platforms where you could subscribe for free, and it provides you with a weekly email to keep you abreast of not only your state, your jurisdiction, and countrywide new ramifications for HR employees. A big one that just came out was the Supreme Court recently ruled that non-compete clauses are no longer eligible in like 95% of cases on severance and employee creations. So something like that is super important. That way you don't waste your own time as HR department, typing all that out only for the Supreme Court of the US to be like, it's actually not true anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think the resources will be helpful for our audience. I think between our audience, we have everything from small businesses to multi-state to all states. So I think it's hard to keep up, especially with HR. Right now, there's
Mm,
not a lot of set laws
yeah.
enacted between AI within HR. It's still so new. All right, let's get another question on the board for you, Brittany. What are the most cost-effective technologies I can use for HR? Some of these sound like they'd be a little pricey, like VR, AR, gamification, etc.
Sure. So Chat GDP is free. Olivia, I believe, is free. Don't quote me on that, please. I know the new Google Assistant that they're rolling out, I think it's supposed to be like Olivia 2.0, is also free. Um, a lot of workplaces will, like workplace platforms, I guess you call it, like for example, Zoho Mail, is free, their AI assistant. So I think honestly, just looking through the platforms that you use for your company right now, whether it's ADP, whether it's Google Workspace, whatever it is you use, they're probably rolling as we speak. So I would utilize those first, and then say if you're thinking, hey, now that the ball has gotten rolling on AI assisted technology, what else could we do? And then maybe look into for getting more AI and VR services.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember when VR first came out, and now you can, for a few $100s, you can have it in your own home. So it will. I see it getting, more affordable and at reach of some of these small businesses as
Mm.
well as it goes on. But you're right. Yeah, there's quite a few free tools out there. Looks like we have time for a couple more questions, so let's put another one on the board for you here. I'm interested in incorporating AI tools into our hiring process, but I'm concerned about potential bias. How can we ensure AI algorithms we are using properly trained and monitored to reduce bias and promote diversity and inclusion in our hiring efforts?
Sure, great question. So you're right to definitely be concerned about bias. So For example, if you're using, there's not one that comes to the top of my mind. However, companies are implementing them more to their own internal AI tools. But for example, if you're scraping resumes for data, you want to make sure that you're excluding those protected categories, right? Of age, race, relations, maybe names, for example, gender, or anything that would be gendered. You'd want to just make sure that your AI tool is not looking at that at all when making their decision.
Gotcha. So again, it goes back to the making sure that on the front end before putting it out there, adding in all those
Exactly.
preventative measures for the bias as much as you possibly can. All right, let's get another question on the board here. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them. If we don't get to them, we'll send them to Brittany via email. We'll send them out to all of our attendees. Can you provide some examples of how VR and AR are currently being used in HR? What kind of training programs or content that they make the most impact? Did we answer this one?
I believe we did.
Something similar if you want to just reiterate on that one, I think, just in
Sure.
case.
So utilizing things like the Google Workspace AI tools, using ChatGPT to come up with prompts for your employees. You can use VR to work with other businesses or your clients. You could have interactive trainings. You could have interactive mandated trainings.
Yeah, definitely. Even the chat bots too within HR, sometimes you may think, what kind of questions can I ask chatbot? You can ask them and say, I'm hiring for, marketing director in this position and I'm in this industry. What are some good questions to ask them? And chatbot can just chat GPT or other chatbots can pop up and give you some of those questions ideas. So it may not be doing the work exactly for you, but it can be like your assistant, can help and be a free assistant in that way. So I know we're already utilizing it in ways like that help us a lot. Let's get one more question on here. This is a good question. How can I make sure my use of ChatGPT for either training or other uses doesn't constitute plagiarism? Is that something built into the chatbot, or do I have to actively monitor that?
You most certainly have to monitor chat GDP for plagiarism, because basically what it does is, it's a fancy word, just basically means looks at, but it's called scrapes all the data from, say, a Google search. So say if you type into chat GDP, give me employee handbook, it's gonna pull up whatever the web finds, which is in its essence plagiarism. However, of course, there's ways around that to make sure that you're not plagiarizing somebody else's, but it is on you. The onus is on you as the user, not the platform, for plagiarism.
Yeah, again, it always goes back to checking the AI, right? You'll have to
Yeah.
have that human touch. All right, so unfortunately, we've run out of time, and all unanswered questions will be forwarded to Brittany via email, and her responses will be sent to all the attendees in the coming days. And thanks to everyone who submitted questions for today's session. And of course, thanks to Brittany for taking the time to answer them. Brittany, can you leave us with any key takeaways on the HR technologies and legal considerations that we discussed today?
Sure, my pleasure. Here are some key takeaways for employees to consider. First, employers and HR professionals can help mitigate the risk of cyber attacks by ensuring that strong passwords are utilized for their company's systems, conducting regular training and tests of malware and phishing attacks, creating backups and preventing insider and ransomware attacks. AI algorithmic tools can also be as unbiased as the data they are trained on. Therefore, employers should conduct regular analysis of these tools to ensure that they do not discriminate against protected classes as defined under Title VII. Third are compliance issues. When managing remote workers, including payroll and tax requirements, expense reimbursements, work permits, workers' compensation, wage and hour requirements, and other legalities unique to a worker's jurisdiction. Fourth, chatbots and virtual assistants can help employers and HR professionals perform various routine tasks. However, be aware of the emerging legal implications of using AI chatbots to generate content or to collect and store personal data. Overall, as human resources teams continue to utilize any newly available technology tools, it is imperative that the legal and compliance implications are reviewed at regular periodic intervals to ensure that they're legally proficient and sound.
All right, thanks so much for reviewing that for us. And before we end today's session, I just like to remind all of our attendees you'll receive a follow-up email with certificate as proof of attendance to today's webinar. So we enjoy hosting webinars for our valued customers, and as such, would really appreciate your feedback. Just stick around a few minutes. A brief survey will open for you to rate and saw what you heard today.
Yes, and this concludes today's webinar. Thank you for attending our presentation. We hope that you enjoyed and benefited from today's HR and Technology Understanding Benefits and Legal Considerations webinar session. Thanks again to Brittany for participating as our expert guest attorney. We look forward to continuing to work with you on future presentations, Brittany. And if you enjoyed today's webinar, we invite you to view past webinars on demand at the link provided on the screen. And to all of our attendees, thank you for choosing Personal Concepts as your provider of workplace compliance solutions. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.